Hi, I'm John Giesick, and welcome to the C-Suite Sherpa podcast, where we shine a spotlight on business experts and resources that you should know. Today, I'm excited about having Jennie Antolak on the podcast with us. She's the president of Learning Journeys, and they specialize in narrative coaching. So, Jennie, welcome to the podcast. Tell us a little bit about what you do and the clients you serve.
Sure. Thanks, John. We certify individuals to become narrative coaches, but we also work with organizations that are really trying to alter or upgrade them. And it really is about we have created this society of transactions. And you think about, well, if I need to change something, I can go buy something for that, or I can go through the drive-through. And we have treated people like this, that if I just tell you to change something, then you should change it. But the reality is that if I don't change my narrative of why I'm doing something, then am I an imposter? And so with organizations and individuals, it really isn't, we're not transactional people, we're humans. We need to figure out how to transform our narrative so that we can be true to ourselves, to our organizations, to the outside world.
Yeah, that's interesting, Jennie. So when you talk about your clients, you mentioned corporate and individual. Tell me the difference between those two client bases for you and how they
Sure.
qualify to be your client.
Well, on an individual basis, it is people wanting to create their own company and they want to go back into organizations and be a consultant for them and do the work with them. On a corporate side, it is us going in and that they don't have the time or the bandwidth to actually create the change they want. They hire us to go in there and either provide training for their leaders to be equipped to help the coaching process of change, or they will just hire us to go in and do it for them.
Got it. So how does someone, either an individual or a company, get to the point where they realize that they have to change their narrative? And when you say narrative, does that mean messaging? Is that the same thing I'm thinking of?
No, it's not the same thing. It really is about this piece of I keep trying to change my behavior, or as a leader, I keep trying to tell my people to stop behaving that way. And it's not altering the outcome. And so when people come to this realization, they start to see, well, wait a second, maybe there's more to this formula than just behavior. And the reality is, we can change our behavior all day long, but if we don't upgrade our narrative, then we can't sustain it. It won't be sustainable. The organizations or individuals that come realize, okay, there has to be something more than my behavior that needs to alter here.
They're probably realizing that it's not a slogan, it's not just changing the words and that changes everything. They're realizing that this is something that they probably can't do on their own.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate that, Jenny. So what separates your business and what you do apart from everyone else?
Well, I think a couple of things do is that we are the only organization or school that is ICF accredited and doing narrative coaching. So while we have the skill set of a certified coach, we are adding the narrative piece to it to help organizations and individuals source the story that justifies why they're doing what they're doing now, but also to help them build the scaffolding to uphold a better story. And nobody else is adding that element to the process. I also think the other piece of it is, John, is just how we show up. If you're going to work with an individual or a group, you can't take yourself too seriously and you can't come in and act like you're the expert, because nobody is more of an expert than that organization or that person in their lives or in their careers. We have to be humble enough to meet people where they're at if we're going to help them get to a better place.
Coming in with the wrecking ball saying, I have all the solutions without finding what their problem is
Yeah.
probably not the way to go.
Oh, I see it all the time.
Yeah. So, Jenny, what do you think the biggest challenge that your industry is going to face over the next couple of years?
I think they're already facing it, is that people want quick fixes and people are going back to old maps for this new territory that we're in. So they're relying on old ways of doing things. The coaching gets watered down, and we're not truly believing in the process of change in the sense that people are capable and creative and resourceful enough to solve their own issues, and that when there's a time frame, we shrink our horizons and we start to direct the process rather than trust the process. I think that the industry is challenged with, do you really believe in coaching to the full extent? Because we got to get there right now. I think it is hindering a lot of people's success in the process.
Yeah, we have a similar situation when we're helping clients getting their business ready to sell. A lot of times we'll get a call from the owner that says, I need to sell my business, and we'll ask him when, and he'll say, yeah, in about 3 to 6 months. We're like, okay, thanks for telling us that, but that feeds into the we want it now thing. And it's not so much lack of planning. I think it's more of an ignorance of not realizing exactly what that process takes. So that's a similar path. So in your field evolving over the next 5 to 10 years, how do you plan on staying ahead of that curve?
Well, we're doing a lot of research so that we can validate what we are doing so that it upholds the reason why we're doing it the way that we're doing it. We also are continuously going out and talking to people about what is your biggest challenge? Where do you see the gaps so that we don't come in with any assumptions or conclusions? I have to go out there and hear the real stories. And truly, if I'm as an organization, if we're going to be partners in this process, I need to hear what is going on, not from my perspective, but from theirs. And that's going to prepare us for what's next.
Jenny, so on that note, when your clients come to you with a presenting problem, what are they asking you to fix? What are they calling you up and saying, hey, Jenny, this is what's going on. Can you help us with this? What do they most commonly come to you with?
One is that it's an internal process. We need to improve our engagement and hold on to our best and brightest. They are trying to figure out how to recreate an environment or a culture that fosters creativity, innovation, collaboration, commitment, all of these things. Or they are client facing and feel like they're just giving a band aid to a problem. And they are saying, okay, we're tired of this cycle that's going on. So we have one client right now, a large client, that they work with people that are in poverty, and they want to continuously decrease stress while increasing their possibility of dreaming, taking action, and creating change in their own lives. In those moments, they're looking at, how do we extend our offering to something that stops the process of poverty or the cycle of poverty and moves it into possibility or hope?
Wow, that's a big hill to climb. That's got to be challenging for you to figure all that out and then put a plan together to help that happen. I give you a lot of credit for figuring that out for people. There's got to be people that are stuck. They probably get to a point where they say, we've tried everything else. Now we're going to have to call somebody. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Fixing it in-house first is
Yep.
it's a business owner's narcissistic tendencies to say we can handle it, right? So, Jenny, we're going to loosen things up a little bit. I want the viewers to get to know you a little bit more on a personal level. I'm going to go through a couple quick questions, a little lightning round, just to
Sure.
get the viewers to get to know you a little bit better. So, coffee or tea?
Diet Pepsi.
Diet Pepsi, okay. What about cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Okay, that's great. And I don't know if you know this or not, but there's a zombie apocalypse coming. So when the zombie apocalypse comes, what's the one thing you're going to run out of your office with? You only get to take one thing with you, Jenny. What's that going to be?
probably my computer. If,
Yeah, right. My computer and my backup generator,
yes.
right? What about a favorite quote or a saying or a phrase, something that impacted you as you were going along in your success journey?
Mhm. I don't, I have so many. I think the one thing that I go to is this piece of my mom and I started our company together. And every time we've gotten stuck or don't know where to go next, she's always like, we can always round up the neighborhood. And and that's basically what we do. We call all our friends and say, okay, here's our problem.
That's a great philosophy. I love that. Round up the neighborhood. Yeah. I mean, it's great to have that sphere of influence to round up. Most people won't admit it. They'll just keep struggling through and beating their heads against the wall. What about when you get a chance to relax? If you plop down in front of the TV, what are you watching? Are you a sports gal or is it a Netflix series? Tell me what's on the TV when you get a chance to watch.
I will watch shows like Ozark or something a little dark, but has a hint of humor to it. So,
Yeah, that's great. That was one of my favorites too, Ozark. What about a book? Maybe your favorite book of all time or something you're currently reading now, or maybe even just a recommendation to the viewers.
most of the time I'm reading for work. And when I'm not doing that, I am addicted to thrillers or even on the political end. So I'm a huge Vince Flynn fan. Term Limits, I think, was the first book he wrote. Sadly, he has passed, but I think it's his son that still carries on a whole series of that genre.
Okay, great. Let's touch a little bit on your bucket list items. I'm looking for a bucket list item that you already accomplished, and maybe a bucket list item that's still on the list that you know for sure you're going to nail without a doubt.
Well, one was we built a school, and that was a bucket list of having a physical location that really upheld the character of who we are and what's important to us. And then the pandemic happened. uh, and then we couldn't do that anymore. But that moves to my other bucket list is that we created what we call the intersection. And it is this vision that we have of two roads meet together. It is the intersection of belonging and becoming. So one street will be called belonging, the other will be called becoming. People from all over the world come to become who they're meant to be, but always have a place that they belong.
So that's going to be something that you're going to accomplish. That's the next big item on the list.
Mm-hmm.
You'll come back and give us an update when that's happening. So what about the biggest obstacle that you had to overcome on your success journey and maybe a lesson you learned from it?
Well, that goes back to the pandemic. We
Yeah.
created everything to be in person, and then all of a sudden, nothing could be in person. And for us to survive, we had to do everything online. And so there was a lot of struggle in that process and a tremendous amount of stress, failures, screw ups, and we had to rely on the people that were going through our classes. They were our clients, but we had to ask them for help because I didn't know how to use Zoom. I didn't know how to translate what we had done for all these years to an online community. And how do you create community when you can always just push a button and everything turns off?
Yeah, and kudos to you, Jenny. You made it.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
that was with a lot of help and a lot of fear.
that automatically assumes that it wasn't easy and you're a go-getter and you're resilient and you weren't going to let some little silly pandemic take you down. So kudos to you for keeping things running. Hey,
Yes.
Jenny, I appreciate you being on the podcast with us. People are going to want to reach out to you and connect with you. I know it for sure. So what's the best way for them to do that?
The easiest way is to email me. So Jennie, Jennie, at learningjourneys.net. Otherwise, they can always call me. I'm not as fast at that, but I will get back to you within 24 hours. So 651-402 2975.
Great, Jen. And do you have a website?
Yes. And it is learningjourneys.net.
Great. And I'll put all that information in the podcast notes so everybody can see that. Jen, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to spend time with us today, and I hope we get to reconnect soon.
Oh, same here. Thanks, John.